Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to check the video out, and appreciate everybody that's taking the time to subscribe here to Intuitive Angling and use all of our links we put in the description and supporting the channel. Just a big thank you to everybody for all your support and viewership of the channel here. Guys, today we're going to talk about why tournament bass fishing payouts suck so bad. I've got a lot of experience in telling you how bad they've sucked because I've fished tournaments since 1970s. We're going to get into that because I actually had a comment from a subscriber yesterday asking about that. And I get this quite a bit, why it's like, God, I can't believe you didn't win that much. You played such and such place and didn't win any more than that. So there's some reasons behind that. We're going to get into that and have a little discussion on that. Dragging this morning, guys. Yesterday I had that BFL tournament at the Lake of the Ozarks, so I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and drive up to Lake of the Ozarks, fish the tournament, come back, and then the night before that, before I had to get up at 3, I didn't get much sleep, and then last night the boys had a slumber party and I didn't get much sleep, and then I woke up this morning and I sort of stretched wrong getting out of bed and like pulled a muscle in my neck and my shoulder, so it's like I'm a little bit complaining this morning about how I'm feeling, but anyway, out here doing the video this morning. Okay, guys, I got a message from a subscriber yesterday. I finished 20th place in the BFL yesterday and won $307, and he's like saying, "God, that sucks. $307 for finishing 20th place." But the reality, we're going to get into this whole thing about tournament payouts. The reality, guys, is bass fishing tournament payouts have always sucked, except for one small window that I'm going to talk about in today's video, and then I'm going to get into some of the reasons why I believe why the payouts are so pathetic. First of all, there's no reason for it because, excuse me, if you look at the other sports out there, say for example golf, golf pays like a freaking, just unbelievably well. Yet, if you look at the industry, as far as the industry that supports golf versus the industry that supports bass fishing, but the money that is spent by bass anglers dwarfs that as what is spent by golfers or tennis players or anything like that. It's like problem that you have with bass fishing, it's a participant sport and it's not a spectator sport per se. So you don't have the ability for those organizations to pull down the big advertising numbers. But that's not an excuse because we're going to get into that here in a little bit in the video. Let me give you a little bit of a history on this, what it was here. Back when I started fishing the Bassmaster Tournament Trail, the 1986, 85, 86 season was my first year. This was the premier circuit. All the classic qualifiers came out of them. There were 6 of them. They were $600 entry fee per tournament, and they paid first place in the tournament, usually paid like a fully rigged bass boat and $5,000. And then they usually paid, I think, 25 or 30 places. They didn't pay that many places. And it wasn't that great. You basically, if you got a check, you got your entry fee back. And in reality, much of the tournament payouts from about 1985, 1986, up until about 5 years ago or so, or 10 years ago, were like that. And there was a period of which, back when FLW was aligned with Walmart from about 1998, 99 to about 2004, it was the golden years as far as payout goes. What the deal was is Walmart, they worked with all the different vendors in there, and they were paying out like 140% payout, which is unheard of. Now it's like nobody even pays out 100%. But back then, they were paying out $1 million to the Forest Wood Cup. Several of our tournaments that you went to, if you finished in 20th place, you won $20,000. And that was the gravy train. That was the years that you could actually make money, if you fished the FLW Tour. Bassmaster and the other ones not so much, but still, that was the best period as far as actually payouts go, because the tournament entry fees were relatively low and the payouts were, over 100%. That was a great time. The problem, what we had here is after Walmart pulled out and the sponsorship dollars went down, you saw a direct correlation with the entry fees going up in tournaments and the payouts going down. Bassmaster Classic used to pay $500,000 for first, now it pays $300,000. Forest Wood Cup used to pay between $500,000 to $1 million. and now the what is now the MLF red crabs pays $300,000. So, and entry fees are higher than they've ever been. So what's the deal? Why are anglers paying higher entry fees than they've ever paid before, and they're winning less money than ever before? We can speculate on this. I mean, I'd be really curious to hear your guys' opinion on it. But for example, it's like, why don't these tournaments that we go to, whether it be AAA level or whatever, why aren't they paying 100%? It's like tournament organizations, in my opinion, it's like, if you can't pay 100% payout in a tournament, then you're not doing your marketing work very well, because the sponsorships and that type of stuff should pay for the overhead for a tournament. It's like, why should you expect bass anglers to subsidize the tournament anglers, to subsidize the tournament organizations through the money that they're paying to compete in the tournament? It's like an unbelievable money pit. You know, golfers, that they don't even have to pay any entry fee, and they're out there every tournament they go to, they're golfing for $1 million to $2 million. 50th place is hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're not paying anything. Where's that money coming from? A lot of it has to do with the whole structure, I think, of it, because until bass fishing, excuse me, until bass fishing can be completely owned by the anglers, where you don't have the overhead of having to support a for-profit business, you're never going to get that way. And the thing that I found about tournament organizations, and I'm not just picking on anyone, I'm talking about all of them. I'm talking about from local AAA to or whatever out there. Until you take away the whole fact that it's a for-profit business, the anglers are just going to basically be customers. They're going to be supporting the tournament organizations and continuing not to make any money, because if you try to make money off of winnings in a tournament, you're going to go broke unless you're somebody like a Jacob Wheeler. There are 1% of the anglers out there, and there always has been ever since I've been fishing, that are good enough to support themselves with tournament winnings. But 98% of the anglers out there can't do it. They're gonna maybe make enough to just keep their heads above water and to not go in the hole. Most of the people are going to go in the hole, but the entire gig of tournament fishing has been centered around the fact that you're dealing with a group of anglers that are addicted to tournament competition, and they're willing to throw money and lose money in order to feed that addiction. That's what it has always relied upon. And I remember even back in the late 80s and the early 90s, there were organized protests amongst Bassmaster anglers that they were going to boycott tournaments unless they didn't get bigger payouts. This has always been an issue with tournament fishing. And from my experience, and here again, I'm not picking on any one organization, this is a blanket statement from my experience, with the exception of that little 4 or 5 year window where FLW was just, throwing money at all the fishermen, it was great. Tournament organizations have always paid just enough to keep the anglers unhappy and disgruntled, but not unhappy and disgruntled enough not to fish the tournaments. It's like there's a fine line there. It's like everybody, I have never, with the exception, as if you were an FLW2 wrangler in the early 2000s, late 90s, other than that exception, all tournament fishing, ever since I've been fishing, have been people complaining about payouts suck. Why aren't they paying out more money? This is too expensive. That's just the reality of the situation. But like I said, never discount the power of an endorphin rush or something that is created by tournament fishing. There is an element in tournament fishing, we've talked about this before, that is completely addictive if you had some level of success. And if you're one of those guys out there that say you qualified for the Bassmaster Classic back in the day, which is an unbelievable experience as far as when you go there, if you guys have never fished in the Bassmaster Classic, it's the greatest experience that you'll ever have as a bass angler. And once you've had that, you want it again. It's like a heroin fix or whatever, and you're willing to lose money to get that fix again. I've seen it over and over again. And one of the things that I've noticed, here's one of the things that happened throughout the course of that, is back in 2008 when we had the stock market crash, the business was pretty decent up until then. Payout and entry fees were not as bad as they are now. But after the stock market crashed in 2008, the fishing industry, tournament industry took a huge hit. It's like most all the bass pros out there lost most of their sponsorship income. Tournaments, they cut everything way back. They got more bare bones. And as the economy recovered after 2008, the tournament organizations never stepped up to the prior 2008 levels again in terms of that relationship between entry fees and payouts, because I think that a lot of them saw, well, why do we have to go back? Because they're willing to do this. They've done this during the recession. Why do we have to go back? And I've seen that a little bit now to where now the payouts just suck. They absolutely suck. Because if you go to a tournament, let's say you go to a tour level event, Bassmaster Elite Series, MLF, or anything like that, or even go into like, a smaller level tournament. But I'll give you an example of like a Bassmaster Tour level or Elite Series here. If you pay $5,000, say they pay $5,000 for the last money check, which is usually half the field. By the way, guys, let me tell you a reality here. The Bass Pro Tour and the Bassmaster Elite Series is the easiest circuit out there to get a check in. They pay half the field, which most other tournament organizations out there, they pay 25-30% of the field. So it's the easiest organizations to get paid in. But here's the thing. Let's say, for example, you finish in the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament, and you finish 50th or 40th or 50th place, and you win your $10,000 for 40th or 50th place. Okay, so you paid $5,000 entries, so your profit's been cut down to $5,000. Let's say that you live here in Missouri where I'm at, and you got a tournament down there at Lake Okeechobee. By the time you go down there with your food and your lodging, all your incidentals, travel experiences, picking up some tackle here and there, you spend another $2,500. So now you're up to $7,500. So if you make a check, you profited $2,500 for making that check. Okay, now what happens if you go to the next tournament and you don't make a check? You lose $10,000. So $7,500. So that means the next tournament you have to finish like in the top 5 in order to win that $15,000 check just to get back even, which doesn't usually happen. That's why for the majority of the tour level anglers out there, the vast majority of them, they wind up losing money every year. And on top of that, it's like, let's say, for example, you've got 7, 8, 9 tournaments a year that you're away from home and you can't work. You still have to pay your bills, and you're not going to be able to pay your bills on $2,500 a month if you're fortunate enough to make a check every month. Or what if you go for 2 or 3 tournaments without making a check? Point of the matter is, tournament bass fishing is a money pit, and unless you have some type of a subsidy that helps you out, whether it be sponsorships, if you got your own business or something like that, you simply can't make a living doing it. No, like I said, there's 1 or 2 people that are freaks of nature that may have the ability to do that over a short period of time, but they're still not going to be able to sustain it. Like I said, Jacob Wheeler, probably the best bass fisherman in the world right now. His day's coming where his performance is going to start dwindling away as he gets older. That's just the nature of the sport. But that's your reason right there. That's the reason that bass tournament payouts suck so much, is they've always sucked. And they don't. And as long as tournament organizations are owned and they're a for-profit business, and they're not owned by the anglers, where they're a non-profit business, it's always going to be a money pit for the fishermen out there. But again, you can't. And let me be fair here. You can make a windfall profit on tournament fishing. I've done it many times, where you have a season out there where you win a tournament or 2. Everything's clicking and you can make a lot of money. But the problem is you can't, that is unsustainable. It's just like my dad said back when I was killing it back in the early 2000s. I was winning tournaments, I was placing high, I was making a lot of money, and Dad looks at me and he goes, Randy, I'll tell you something right now. You better stop pissing that money away, or you better not piss that money away you're winning, because you're probably going to run into a dry spell, but one of these days. Sure, excuse me. Sure enough, he was right. You know, a few years later, you hit a dry spell, and that's just nature of tournament fishing. But anyway, I hope that explains things, guys, a little bit. Let me know what you all think about it. We'll talk later.